Celtics fans, you are watching Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am Will Scott. There is a lot to break down on today's show. Rumors have been loud after the C's lost to the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. What will they do this offseason? It is going to be an eventful offseason in Boston, no question about it. So be sure you subscribe to stay in the loop because, like I said, it is going to be a wild offseason. There is a lot that could go down. You want to stay informed, so be sure to hit that subscribe button below and turn on your notifications to stay in the loop with all Celtics news and rumors. Should the Celtics and could the Celtics trade for Damian Lillard, the star point guard from the Portland Trail Blazers? Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, who is obviously very well respected when you're talking about media members who cover the NBA, he says it's time to split up the Jays and mentions Damian Lillard as a top trade target for Boston. And the Celtics could look to mix things up after that Eastern Conference Finals loss to Miami. Dame is expected to be in trade talks this offseason, and I do believe with Portland having the number 3 pick, if Scoot Henderson is on the board, that could certainly accelerate the Damian Lillard trade talks. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for him and Scoot to play together. Could a swap for Jaylen Brown be in the picture here? Could that make sense for both sides? Damian Lillard is one of the best players in the league. He's getting older a little bit, but he is still highly productive. In 58 games this year, he averaged 32.2 points per game, 7.3 assists per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, and shot 46.3% from the floor. Do you want to trade for Damian Lillard, type T for trade or type P for pass? Down in the comment section, go down, chime in. It is the pinned comment, so reply to it when you get a second or when ad break comes. Type T for trade or type P for pass. This is something that we are probably going to hear a lot about, the possibility of a Jaylen Brown for Damian Lillard swap, because like I said, the Blazers have the number 3 pick. I don't think Brandon Miller is a better prospect than Scoot. At the same time, I think the Hornets are going to go with Brandon Miller just because of the fit. So if Scoot Henderson is expected to be on the board at number 3 and they go with him and then trade for Jaylen Brown, could make some sense for both sides to make that swap, Damian Lillard for Jaylen Brown. Dame and Tatum as a duo would probably be the best duo in the league right away. Here's what Kevin O'Connor said about a possible trade for Damian Lillard. The top target for the C's on my list would be Damian Lillard, a born leader with elite shot creation skills. Lillard is far more potent than Brown, and he brings more offensive versatility since he can both thrive as an off-ball shooter and settle into a pass-first role when necessary. Here's the first trade idea that Kevin O'Connor throws out, and it's it's literally just a straight-up swap. Damian Lillard for Jaylen Brown. Now, like I said, depending on what the Blazers do in the draft, it could make sense for both sides. Jaylen Brown going into the last year of his contract. Here's what the Celtics starting 5 would look like after that trade. Now, I'm not sure what that would mean for Marcus Smart. I still expect him to be on this team even with the Lillard trade. So this is just a projected starting 5. Damian Lillard, Marcus Smart, Derek White, who you better keep around, Jason Tatum, and Robert Williams III. I think that's better than the starting 5 you currently have. Now, Lillard is intriguing, very intriguing, when you're talking about a trade target. But he's older than Jaylen Brown. We don't know how many prime years he has left. Jaylen Brown is arguably just entering his prime, coming off the best season of his career. He is far younger than Damian Lillard. So for me, it's a tough call when you're making a straight-up swap like that. But again, the C's, after a disappointing finish in the playoffs, it was title or bust. I said that before the season. I'm still saying that. It was a disappointing season for the Boston Celtics prior to what Giannis Antetokounmpo says. I do believe this season was a failure when you consider that you lost to an 8 seed in the Eastern Conference Finals. You got down 3-0, too big of a hole to climb out of. I thought it was banner 18 or bust for the Celtics. So the fact they didn't get it done, the fact that Jaylen Brown is going into an expiring contract year, could make some sense to shake things up if you're Brad Stevens and Boston. Now, unfortunately, the C's are not in the NBA Finals, but if you hate the Heat, you can go bet against the Heat at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code chat125 for a 125% deposit bonus through BetUS. That means if you put $100 into your account, you're going to start with $225. That is a phenomenal deal. Taking a look at the odds for Game 1. Now, Denver is a 9-point favorite here in Game 1. The total is at 219. So if you think we're going to see a low-scoring game, maybe Miami's going to be a little bit fatigued, take the under. If you think Denver's going to roll in Game 1 at home, maybe go with the Nuggets -9. That line, a little bit too aggressive for me to take, but maybe you're feeling bold. Go and bet on the finals, chatsports.com/bet. Promo code chat125. Game 1 is on Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's the second idea that Kevin O'Connor whipped up here. Celtics receive Anfernee Simons and the number 3 overall pick. The Blazers receive Jaylen Brown. This is pretty interesting. Now, we just broke down 2 trade ideas. Which trade would you do? Type 1 for trade number 1. Which is just a straight-up swap of Jaylen Brown and Damian Lillard, or type number 2 for that trade idea that gets you Anfernee Simons and the number 3 overall pick, or neither, type 0 if you're not feeling either of those trade ideas. I see Clean Music Lover in the chat. He's not a fan of the trade idea that we just showed there. Type 0 if you would not do either of those trades. Now, if you get the number 3 overall pick for Jaylen Brown, and again, that second trade idea does not have you getting Damian Lillard. It has you getting Anfernee Simons, the number 3 pick. Here are some potential targets there. Scoot Henderson would be a lot of fun. Brandon Miller and Amen Thompson. Now, I believe that there's really only 2 realistic targets for whoever ends up with the number 3 pick. Very possible that Portland trades that pick. Could be to Boston. I doubt it, but that's what Kevin O'Connor is speculating here in a possible Jaylen Brown trade. Scoot Henderson would probably be the guy because I think Brandon Miller's going number 2 overall to Charlotte, but it's going to be one of those 2 in all likelihood, Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller. Having that pick would be really interesting, and I'm curious to know Brad Stevens' thought process. If he is, in fact, exploring the idea of trading Jaylen Brown, does he prefer a star player in return or maybe young talent and draft picks? That's the question that Brad Stevens is going to have to ask if Jaylen Brown does go on the trade block. Kevin O'Connor also said this: Stevens and the Celtics brass could open up more options for themselves if they're willing to trade Brown for younger pieces like that Simons and picks idea. Would Houston move the number 4 pick? Though adding a top pick would, in theory, mean taking a step back, it's possible that Brown's offensive production could be replaced by committee. And I actually think O'Connor makes a very good point there. The Houston Rockets have the number 4 pick. They have been linked to Jaylen Brown. And if Jaylen Brown does get traded, or at least is on the trade block, Houston could get involved because who's the new head coach in Houston? Ime Udoka, who, of course, coached Jaylen Brown last year. Those 2, I've seen some rumors that they didn't have a great relationship. I've also seen rumors that they did have a great relationship. Jaylen Brown has had nothing but good things to say about his former head coach, Ime Udoka. So the Rockets, with the Udoka connection, with all the cap space that Houston has, they would be willing to pay Jaylen Brown the max, and I think they would prefer a guy like Brown over Amen Thompson or whoever else might be available at number 4 overall. But the Rockets with the number 4 pick, team to watch here when you're talking about a Jaylen Brown trade. NBA Central, speaking of the Rockets, tweeted this out. The Boston Celtics are expected to lose 3 assistant coaches to Ime Udoka's staff in Houston, per Gary Washburn. Now, this is not a huge shock because, think about it, Ime Udoka did not coach this past season. He was suspended 2 weeks before the season began. Joe Mazzulla was promoted, and of course that staff was going to stay with Joe Mazzulla through the season, but now with Udoka in Houston, it is not a huge shock. The Celtics might lose a couple of assistants to the Houston Rockets here and Ime Udoka. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, we're going to have you covered with Celtics news and rumors throughout the offseason.